never imagined that stepping through the front door of my mother's home in Scottsdale would make me feel so hollow. Her 65th birthday party was extravagant. Hired servers, gold balloons everywhere, velvet-covered tables. I came alone, exactly as she had requested 3 days earlier. Adults only, Chloe. Kids will ruin the atmosphere. I agreed. Though it felt unfair, I hired a babysitter and calmed my 2 little ones, Liam 7 and Ruby 5, with the promise that I'd take them to the movies that weekend. They were heartbroken, but I trusted my mom had a good reason. She always valued order at her parties. I thought, maybe she just wanted a quiet evening to celebrate. But that thought shattered the moment I saw Scott, my brother, walk in with his wife and their 3 children, all dressed to perfection like a holiday catalog. The youngest even carried a gift wrapped in shiny silver paper, tied with a giant red bow you couldn't miss. My mother lit up, left the guests mid-conversation, and rushed to embrace the kids. "Rami!" they squealed, their excitement echoing through the room. I froze. The room went still for a second before the laughter, the clinking glasses, and soft background music resumed. But for me, everything felt suffocating. I walked over to my mother, keeping my voice as low as possible. "Mom, didn't you say this was an adults-own party?" She turned to me, still holding Scott's eldest. There was a brief flicker of discomfort in her eyes, quickly replaced by a forced smile. "Scott's kids are different, Chloe. They know how to behave, not like Liam and Ruby. I'm sure you understand." I tightened my grip on my clutch. "What do you mean by different? They're your grandchildren too." "Chloe, don't make a scene," she murmured, then waved for a server to bring Scott another glass of champagne. "Your kids, they cause chaos. This party needs peace." Peace. I remembered how Ruby cried for hours that afternoon because she couldn't come. She'd picked out a lavender princess dress 2 weeks ago and had asked me to braid her hair like a cartoon queen. Liam had spent an hour drawing a birthday picture for his grandma. I'd ended up hiding it away because I couldn't bear to see his disappointed face again. I glanced around the room. Framed family photos lined the walls. Scott and his family at cookouts, Christmas mornings, graduations. And Liam and Ruby? If they appeared at all, it was at the edge of group shots, blurry background figures. Scott looked over and smirked. "Come on, Chloe. You know your kids are a handful. You should enjoy a night off." That sentence twisted in my chest. I rose from the dinner table, leaving my untouched appetizer behind. No one stopped me. Mom had already turned her attention back to Scott's youngest, listening intently to little Ava's beach story. I walked out of the red brick house where I'd spent the first 20 years of my life. A bitter tightness swelled in my throat. Tonight was supposed to be a family celebration, but under the glowing lights and hollow smiles, I finally accepted something I had long refused to admit. My children had never truly been welcome here, and I knew then it was time to build a space where they truly belonged. I drove away from the quiet neighborhood in Scottsdale, my hands still trembling slightly on the steering wheel. I didn't cry tonight. Not because I wasn't hurt, but because this kind of pain had become too familiar to surprise me. It was like an old scar. Never bleeding, but never truly healed. It was always the same. Family celebrations somehow always carried the sting of exclusion. As a child, I believed my mother would change if I just tried harder. Better grades, better manners, even choosing teaching as a safe and respectable career like she always wanted. But somehow, nothing I did was ever enough. And Scott, my brother, barely had to lift a finger to be treated like the heir to some invisible family throne. I pulled over near the street that led to our apartment complex. The streetlights cast long shadows across the pavement. Cold, distant. I didn't want to go home yet, not because I feared facing my kids' hopeful eyes, but because I had no idea how to begin explaining that they had been cut out of tonight's family portrait simply for not fitting someone else's idea of appropriate. I unlocked my phone, scrolling through my contacts on instinct. My finger stopped on a name I never expected to think of at that moment: Brian Carver. Brian had been a close friend of mine in college, now a chef at a well-known restaurant in Flagstaff. We once took the same soft skills seminar, but after I got married and later divorced, we lost touch. Still, I followed his cooking videos online, each episode pulling thousands of views. Liam loved his honey-glazed chicken so much he learned to bread chicken just from watching those clips. I didn't think twice. I hit call. "Chloe?" came his voice after 2 rings, still warm as ever. "Wow, it's been forever." I smiled faintly, trying to sound steady. "I know. It's a bit late. Are you still at the restaurant?" "Yeah, just wrapped up the dinner crowd. What's going on?" I took a deep breath. "I need a favor. A crazy one. Would you be willing to host 2 tiny guests at this hour?" There was a short pause, and then Brian replied without hesitation. "For Chloe Martinez's kids? Always." A few minutes later I was back home. The living room light was still on. Ruby sat on the floor hugging her teddy bear in a mini ball gown. Liam was folding the drawing he had made for Grandma. Jessica, the sitter, stood nearby, clearly out of tricks to cheer them up. "I'm sorry, Mom," Ruby murmured as I stepped in. "I tried to be good. I thought, maybe Grammy would change her mind." I knelt down and hugged her tightly. "Grammy didn't change. But I have a better idea. Grab your jackets, both of you." Liam looked up. "Where are we going at this hour?" I just smiled. "To cook a late-night dinner. Somewhere special." When we arrived at Brio 78, Brian's restaurant, it was almost 10 p.m. But the lights were still warm, the kitchen, still alive, and Brian, in full chef uniform, was waiting by the door. "Welcome, honored guests," he said with a grin. "Tonight's private dinner for 2 junior chefs starts now." Ruby's eyes widened. "Really, sir? I've never been inside a restaurant kitchen before." Brian crouched to shake their hands. "Then tonight's a first. And I need help making honey BBQ chicken pizza. Who wants to be my sous chef?" Liam nearly leapt with excitement. Inside, Brian had prepared a small workstation near the open kitchen, where his team was still cleaning up. They smiled and nodded as the kids walked in, wearing tiny aprons, buzzing like they'd been let backstage at a live show. I sat down for the first time that day and finally exhaled. No classical music humming coldly in the background. No judging glances. Just flour, sauce, and laughter echoing through the night. Maybe I didn't leave that party in Scottsdale just to make a statement. I left because I realized something that had taken me years to accept. My children deserve to be celebrated. Not in carefully edited family photos, but in real, vibrant moments that need no permission to exist. Brio 78 was unlike any place my kids had ever been to. The restaurant had a modern industrial vibe, tall ceilings, exposed brick walls, and soft amber lighting spilling from rows of pendant lamps. Tiny potted herbs lined the shelves by the glass windows, the air filled with the gentle scent of basil and roasted garlic. Liam stood glued to the open kitchen as if watching a live movie, while Ruby clutched my hand and whispered, "Mom, am I dreaming?" Brian smiled, crouching to meet their eyes. "I bet your mom told you. She's our guest of honor tonight, but I'm actually short 2 of the best junior chefs in Arizona. Think you 2 can help me out?" Ruby nodded, eyes lighting up. "I know how to shape star cookies. I made them at Christmas all by myself." Brian looked genuinely impressed, like she'd just announced a national baking award. "That's amazing. Then let's start with dessert, shall we?" He led them into the kitchen area. I sat at a small table by the glass wall, close enough to watch but still tucked into a corner of my own. Brian had set up a mini station just for them, pre-measured ingredients, gleaming metal mixing bowls, and 2 tiny aprons printed with the restaurant's logo. Name cards sat on the table, Junior Chef Liam, and Junior Chef Ruby. I froze for a moment. No one had ever called my children chefs before at their grandparents' house. They were usually the noisy ones. Across the counter, Ruby beamed as Brian showed her how to sift cocoa powder, while Liam learned to whisk egg whites. I took out my phone and snapped a picture. My son, who teachers once labeled too hyper, now listening carefully and following directions with steady hands. Just then, Brian turned to me. "Chloe, got a minute? Our manager's coming in later. We're planning a weekend workshop for kids. Part cooking, part creative play. I think you should hear about it." I raised an eyebrow. "Me? I'm just a former elementary school teacher who freelances now, nothing special." Brian tilted his head. "You've got two amazing kids, and the heart to pull them out of a place that didn't see their worth. That's more special than you think." I didn't answer. I just watched, as the kids spooned tiramisu cream into cups, Ruby tilting her head to ask, "Is this right, Chef Brian?" It was a quiet question, but full of trust. In that unfamiliar kitchen, my daughter felt guided, seen, and safe. Less than 20 minutes later, the restaurant manager arrived. A sharp-eyed, approachable Latina woman in her late 30s named Maribel. Brian introduced us and quickly recapped the night. Maribel studied the children for a moment, then turned to me. "We're building a new program, Little Plates, Big Hearts. Each week, we'll invite kids with a talent or passion for cooking. They'll have mentors, chefs to guide them. But we're not just looking for students. We're looking for true partners." I blinked. "Partners?" "Yes," she nodded. "We'd like you and the kids to be part of the founding advisory panel. Help shape it from real-life experience. No filters. And if you're in, your children will be our first official junior ambassadors." My heart skipped a beat. Ruby had just dusted cocoa on her dessert. Liam was arranging chocolate chips into tiny heart shapes. I looked at them. Not with the weary eyes of a mother constantly defending her children, but with true awe. They had done more than I expected. Not because I didn't believe in them, but because I'd been so busy justifying their place in spaces that never truly welcomed them. "Yes," I said, steadier than before. "If you're serious about creating a space where every child is respected, then we're in." Maribel smiled. "Welcome to the kitchen." In that moment, Brio 78 was no longer just a refuge for the three of us. It became the first place where Ruby's laughter and Liam's curiosity weren't too loud, too much, or too messy. A space where raw ingredients could become something beautiful and full of promise. I stopped thinking about my mother, about Scott, or about the family photos that had always kept us at the edge. Tonight, we weren't excluded. We were invited in. And maybe, just maybe, we had started something that would grow far beyond what I ever imagined. Brian led Ruby and Liam through the main kitchen of Brio 78, like he was unveiling a secret world reserved only for truly special guests. White light from the ceiling fixtures gleamed off stainless steel surfaces as the chefs wrapped up their final dinner orders with a rhythm that felt choreographed. No one seemed bothered by kids in the kitchen. On the contrary, they waved, smiled, and one even bent down to high-five Ruby. Brian pointed to a chalkboard near the prep station, written in bold, white letters, "Junior Chef Session, Private Class." Below that were two names, scribbled in enthusiastic handwriting, Liam and Ruby. "We've prepared something extra special tonight," Brian said, pulling two white aprons from a drawer. Each one bore the Brio 78 logo, with Junior Chef stitched beneath it in gold thread. Ruby's jaw dropped. Liam gasped. "We really get to wear these?" "Not just wear them," Brian replied, fastening the apron on each of them like a ceremonial sash, "but earn your official titles." He guided them to a small kitchen station at the end of the line, where everything had been carefully prepped. Eggs, mascarpone, cocoa, ladyfingers, sugar and chilled espresso. Each ingredient sat in its own metal bowl, laid out like a mini competition set. Brian handed Ruby a wooden spoon. Your job is to mix the mascarpone as gently as if you're cuddling a kitten. The kitchen erupted with laughter. Liam was tasked with making the coffee base and counting the ladyfingers. Help me line them up like you're building a chocolate bridge, Brian said. Ruby mixed the cream with both hands, head tilted in concentration. I had never seen her so focused. Normally at home, she'd abandon a task in 5 minutes to chase her stuffed bear. Liam, my boy who couldn't sit still at school, was aligning the ladyfingers with such care, his lips pursed like a little architect. Brian didn't lecture them like adults talking down to kids. He told stories. How he messed up his first tiramisu at 10, how his mom taught him to distinguish real vanilla from artificial, and how, once he overloaded a mixer and coated the whole kitchen in powdered sugar. Ruby giggled. That's like me last week. I made pancakes and it looked like snow exploded. Then you're already halfway to being a pro, Brian said, handing her the vanilla extract and teaching her how to pour, drop by drop. I captured the moment Liam gently guided Ruby's hand, helping her tilt the bowl as they filled dessert cups. No bickering, no crying, just natural teamwork, as if they had always belonged here. After the last dusting of cocoa powder, Brian placed 2 silver trays on the counter, each labeled with the kids' names. He blew a tiny whistle and called out, "Time for plating and judging." A group of chefs gathered, playing the role of a very official-looking judging panel. They tasted each dessert carefully, nodding and whispering as if on a cooking show. Liam started biting his nails in suspense. "The layering is beautifully even," one commented. "Perfect balance of sweetness and vanilla," said another. Finally, the sous chef spoke up. "I suggest we put this on the Sunday tasting menu." Liam's mouth dropped open. Ruby grabbed my hand. "Is that real, Mom?" Brian turned to them, crouching to their level. "If you two agree, we'll name it Tiramisu Junior, Ruby and Liam Special, and part of the proceeds will fund scholarships for our kids' cooking program." I looked at them, speechless. They were glowing. Ruby's eyes shimmered. Liam exhaled in disbelief that something he had made might actually go on a real restaurant menu. I glanced at my phone. Messages flooded in from the family group chat. My mom, Scott, and a few relatives. But this time, I didn't open a single one. I turned the phone face down and picked up my camera instead, snapping a photo of Liam fixing Ruby's apron, both of them smiling beneath the kitchen lights. No one at that Scottsdale party saw this. Maybe they wouldn't have cared. But here, in this warm kitchen, I didn't need an invitation. I didn't need approval. They only needed to see my kids being fully themselves and honored for it, like they always should have been. I never thought a single photo could shift the atmosphere of an entire family. Right after Ruby and Liam finished decorating their junior chef's tiramisu, I quietly snapped a moment. Both kids standing side by side, beaming in white aprons embroidered with their names, each holding a dessert plate dusted with cocoa and chocolate shavings. Brian stood behind them, his hand gently resting on their shoulders, eyes filled with pride like an older brother. No filters, no edits, just a raw, heartfelt moment. I posted it with the caption, "My 2 little chefs, serving something far sweeter than any party invitation. Thank you, Brio78, for giving kids a space to shine as they are." Within 5 minutes, the notifications poured in. Like, love, comment, share. One by one, they flooded my phone like a tidal wave. Oh my gosh, look at those kids! Their eyes and smiles are glowing. Where is this class held? My kid loves cooking, but we haven't found the right place yet. Thank you, Chloe, for sharing this. Special kids truly need special spaces. And then, unexpectedly, a message from Aunt Patty, my mom's sister. Chloe, I'm at your mom's birthday party. The whole room is looking at the photo. I have to say. Everyone's stunned. Even your mother is speechless. I sank into my seat. Ruby was telling Brian all about how she grew basil on her windowsill, in a recycled soda can. Liam was counting dessert plates, preparing them for the judging panel. The next message hit me with a mix of humor and something bittersweet. Scott just muttered, maybe our kids should have done this too. His 3 are now pouting. They saw Liam and Ruby in aprons and got jealous. Then a text from my cousin Janice. Chloe, I know you've been overlooked, but tonight, you're the center. That photo's being shared in every parent group at our school. I opened Facebook and checked our local community groups. Scottsdale Parents Connect, Phoenix Inclusive Families, Spring Hill Block Chat. There it was. My kid's photo, reshared dozens of times. People were asking for the restaurant's address, requesting the junior chef model to expand into neighboring districts. One mother wrote, "My son has ADHD, and traditional classes never work. But in the kitchen, he focuses like never before. I've waited for something like this for years." Another comment made my throat tighten. Maybe what we need to learn from Chloe isn't just parenting, but how to choose the right space where our kids can truly be themselves. I turned to Brian. He was laughing with Liam, showing him how to use a chocolate grater. Ruby stood nearby, carefully jotting down the recipe in her little notebook, each letter focused and deliberate. I handed Brian my phone and showed him the screen, glowing with hundreds of shares. He blinked, then said, "Wow, Chloe? Do you realize? This might be more than just a fun evening. This could be the start of something bigger." I smiled softly. All I wanted was for my kids to be respected. And that, he said, is exactly why you're changing the way people see kids with different needs. Moments later, Maribel, the restaurant manager, walked over, her eyes bright. "Chloe, you should know this. A local paper just reached out. They saw the post and want to interview you. They're writing about inclusive education models in our community." I paused. "I'm not a media person, I'm just a single mom." "And that's exactly why your story resonates," Maribel replied. "It's real." Before I could say anything, my phone buzzed again. A message from my mother. Just one sentence. "We need to talk." I stared at the screen. No apology, no mention of the kids. Just another command, like always. I locked the screen. Looked up at my children, carefully placing their tiramisu on silver trays. Their faces glowing in the air scented with vanilla and cocoa. I'd heard enough. Tonight, I wasn't going to let anyone pull me back into a place where I was seen as a burden. Because I had found where we belong. And the best part was, none of us needed anyone's permission to shine. When the evening at Brio 78 came to a close, Brian led me to the restaurant's back patio. A small terrace draped in soft yellow string lights, intertwined with fragrant flowers and pots of rosemary. Ruby sat with Maribel, enthusiastically sketching ideas for a kids' herb menu, while Liam spun a whisk like it was a glowing baton at a concert. Brian pulled a slim folder from his jacket pocket, his usual humor replaced by a quiet seriousness. "Chloe, I've kept this to myself for too long. But after seeing Ruby and Liam in the kitchen tonight, I can't stay silent." I frowned slightly, caught off guard. "What are you talking about?" He opened the folder, revealing a proposal titled, "Tiny Hands, Big Hearts, a statewide junior chef program." Next to the Brio 78 logo was the emblem of the Bloom Kids Foundation. "We've been quietly building this for over a year," Brian said. "But we've been missing one thing: faces that truly inspire. Not perfect kids from a textbook. Real ones. Lively, bold, sometimes loud, sometimes messy, but always genuine." I froze when I saw the first page. Photos of Ruby and Liam in their aprons, standing by the tiramisu tray, their eyes sparkling. Not staged, not filtered. Just real moments. We're rolling out weekend cooking classes across Phoenix, Mesa, Chandler, Tucson, Brian continued. We'd love for Ruby to be our herb mentor. She's got an amazing instinct for flavor. And Liam? He'll be our master of movement, helping other kids learn by doing. I laughed. You're turning Liam's hyperactivity into a brand? Exactly. Brian nodded. His energy doesn't need to be silenced. It needs to be channeled. I looked over at my kids, laughing so hard they nearly tipped over, debating whether to call a plant oregano or pizza leaf. I nodded without hesitation. I'm in. But why me? I'm just a single mom with no platform. Chloe, that's exactly why you matter, Brian said. We need you and the kids on Bloom Kids Community Advisory Board, a small group helping shape curriculum, connect with schools, choose scholarship recipients. Maribel joined us, handing me a thick envelope. This is your official invitation from Bloom Kids. All 3 of you will be featured in our fall campaign. And if you accept, we'll fully sponsor Ruby and Liam's spot in the year-long program. All we ask is that you keep doing what you did tonight. Share your truth. I don't remember when I started nodding. I only remember my hand reaching out to catch Ruby as she rushed over, excitedly shouting, "Mom, are Liam and I really going to teach?" "Not teach, sweetheart," I whispered. "You'll learn, play, and help build something beautiful." That night I received dozens of messages. A few from Ruby's old teachers, shocked at how confident and lively she looked. Others came from neighborhood parents, asking how to sign up. One stood out. An email from Liam's former principal, Mrs. Coleman. I owe Liam an apology. I once thought he couldn't focus, but clearly, we just placed him in the wrong environment. The next morning, golden sunlight streamed into the kitchen. Liam was practicing chocolate designs with a piping bag on his breakfast sandwich. Ruby had her herb journal open, listing the plants she wanted to grow on our apartment balcony. "I think I'll name my section Ruby's Garden Guide," she said. "And Liam's can be messy but genius." I laughed. Better than any slogan I've ever written. My phone pinged with a new email. It was from Brian, with the schedule for the first Junior Mentors workshop at Brio 78. At the bottom, a short note. "Chloe, you may not realize it yet, but you've opened the door for so many kids like Ruby and Liam. And trust me, someday, those kids will open the world." I looked down at the breakfast table. 2 crisp white chef shirts, a pair of tiny kitchen shoes, and 2 smiles as bright as morning sun. I no longer needed my mother's approval, because I had found my worth in the moment I chose to stand with the kids who had been pushed out of the picture. And this time, we weren't just invited to the table. We were the ones building it. Just 3 weeks after Ruby and Liam officially became ambassadors for the Tiny Hands Big Hearts program, the story of the 2 junior chefs from Scottsdale had spread far beyond our neighborhood. The first article, published in Arizona Family Weekly, with the headline, "When Differences Are Celebrated with Aprons and Spoons," was shared thousands of times. Photos of Ruby teaching how to mix rosemary, or Liam grinning after accidentally showering his dish with too much chocolate, quickly became symbols of a new kind of education. Inclusive, unstructured, and full of encouragement. One Monday morning, while getting Ruby ready for school, an email came into the shared Bloom Kids inbox from a chef in Santa Fe. "I'd like to register as a regional partner for the Junior Chef program. Is there a way to train under Brio 78's model?" The very next day, Olive and Salt, a restaurant in Flagstaff, hosted a Chef for a Day pilot class, directly inspired by one of my social media posts. Maribel had to assemble a special coordination team because 8 restaurants across Arizona requested the curriculum toolkit. Brian was being invited to speak at education conferences nearly every weekend. Amid all the buzz, I received a message from my mother. "Your kid's story is spreading. Mrs. Peterson just sent me the article. I think maybe I was wrong to keep Ruby and Liam home that night." I sat in silence, hand resting on the table, unsure what to feel. There was no apology, no acknowledgement of the favoritism. But honestly, I didn't need it anymore. 3 days later, Scott, my brother, called. Chloe, my kids saw the pictures of yours, they're ridiculously jealous. Ava even cried, begging to join Ruby's class. Do you think you could help me sign them up? I took a deep breath. You want them to be in the program? Yeah, but we have no idea where to start. You know people, maybe it's easier for you. By myself for the first time in that conversation. It's easier for me, yes. But that doesn't mean there are shortcuts. Every parent has to register the same way. There's a link on the Bloom Kids site. Fill it out. If the child's a fit, they'll call back. Scott paused. Wait, are you being difficult? No, I'm being fair, the same fairness my kids didn't get. He was quiet for a few seconds, then sighed. I get it. And I'm sorry, Chloe. I guess I never really saw what you were going through. I didn't respond right away, but for the first time his apology felt real. Not as a way to smooth things over, but as a genuine admission. That Saturday, while Ruby and Liam were in their weekend class at Brio 78, I stood in the hallway chatting with a mother who had just brought her son for a trial session. She looked exhausted, holding her 8-year-old boy, who showed signs of being on the autism spectrum. I've been turned away from 3 different places, she said. But after seeing Ruby and Liam, I believe my son might actually be welcome here. I placed my hand gently on her shoulder. You're exactly where you need to be. Later that afternoon, Brian walked into the Bloom Kids meeting room, beaming. Next month's budget just got doubled. A spice company wants to sponsor the herb kits for 5 cities. Maribel handed me a draft of the new brochure. On the cover, Ruby and Liam holding a pot of basil and a wooden spoon. Below them, a single line read, "Shine your own way." That evening, my mother called again. This time, she asked directly, could I come see one of Ruby's weekend classes? Just to watch them? Once. I paused, then gently replied, I can't promise anything. But you can fill out the volunteer form, like everyone else. If you're selected, you'll be allowed to observe a session. I didn't say it aloud, but I knew I had made the right choice. I was no longer the quiet daughter sitting at someone else's table. I was the one who built a new table. One with enough seats for children like Ruby, like Liam, and for anyone who's ever been pushed aside simply for being different. No one would be left out. By late spring that year, Ruby began carefully packing small seed bags into recycled cardboard boxes, labeling each with a childlike but meticulous hand. Basil, easy to grow, mild scent, perfect for pizza. Rosemary, great for roast chicken. Oregano, Ruby calls it pizza leaf. Each set came with a cream-colored card that read, "From Ruby's garden to your kitchen." The idea started as a cooking class assignment. Find a way to share your love of food with the community. Ruby didn't hesitate. I want kids to grow their own herbs like I do, she said. We tested 20 sets at a weekend fair hosted by Brio 78. All sold out within 45 minutes. A local journalist wrote a glowing article, calling her the little boss of flavor. Meanwhile, Liam's sat and boundless energy unexpectedly became a viral sensation. A video Brian filmed of him teaching kids how to make no-mess BBQ sauce was posted on Brio 78's TikTok. The 90-second clip racked up over 1.2 million views in 1 week. Viewers affectionately dubbed him the Sauce Boss Kid, and the comments flooded in. This is the first time I've seen a kid talk like they're hosting a real cooking show. My child followed this video all afternoon and finally washed their hands after cooking. We started filming weekly Sunday videos. No studio, no fancy lights, just Liam, a small wooden table, basic ingredients, and laughter. Ruby would pop in occasionally, holding up a basil pot or offering tips from Ruby's garden guide. Within 3 months, their YouTube channel surpassed 50,000 subscribers. A children's kitchenware company reached out, eager to co-create a branded line. Little Hands by Liam and Ruby. I spent an evening reading through the contract in detail. But this time I wasn't the overwhelmed mom afraid of getting it wrong. I was Chloe Martinez, Bloomkid's advisor, mother of 2 children, once pushed out of the picture, now building their own stage. Our lives settled into a new rhythm. Evenings, once filled with quiet meals, now buzzed with video planning, herb kit orders, and weekend creative hours, where the kids freely experimented with new recipes. No pressure, no expectations. Just joy. That summer, I received an invitation from the statewide Innovation in Education Conference in Tucson. They wanted me to speak about my journey, from a single mother rejected by her own family, to a pioneer in inclusive education through food. I stepped on stage, with a giant photo behind me. Ruby, hugging a pot of basil, Liam holding a tiramisu with a grin too wide to hide. Sometimes, I told the audience, you don't need to change the whole world. You just need to change how you treat one child. And from there, everything begins to shift. After the talk, I received a handwritten letter. The sender, Mrs. Peterson, my mother's lifelong friend. She wrote, I attended one of Chloe's community classes. I watched Ruby help a young girl with mild autism water mint plants. I saw Liam gently guide a boy's hand to teach him how to measure. I realize now, we were wrong. These children aren't too much for us. We just never learned how to listen. My mother never apologized. But one day, she sent me a gift. A leather-bound notebook etched with the title, Martinez Family Recipes and Traditions. Inside were blank pages and a single handwritten note. Maybe it's time we start a tradition of our own. I don't know if she'll ever fully grasp the pain she caused, but I no longer wait for her to. Because now, I don't just have a new tradition, I have an entire community. And I understand this more clearly than ever. Exclusion is not the end. It's the sign you're standing at the right door. The only question is, do you have the courage to walk through it? Chloe's story didn't begin with success. It began with the pain of watching her children be dismissed by their own family. But that moment of exclusion became her turning point. When she stopped seeking approval and started creating a space where Ruby and Liam could truly belong, everything changed. From one denied dinner, they built a community, and Chloe realized, sometimes, the best things don't come from the place you tried to fit in, but from the place you dared to begin again, on your own terms. What do you think about Chloe's journey and the choices she made? Share your thoughts in the comments. And don't forget to follow the channel for more heartfelt, powerful stories about family, choices, and finding your true worth.